The finger. Hilarious.
Megapond.
Is it merch? Oh,
I saw has
No.
bought another Megapon. I saw it on
Yeah, I did.
the.
I did. I got like 5,000 STX from Agva that was remaining from the fund, and I spent like 2,000 on my personal expenses for the month, and another on Megapond because I lost like I think two. I sold. I might have sold one for the event, so I just like got one pack. I had like five. Now I have like three. Look at this shit. That's awesome. That's a place in Egypt that I can't I legally can't go there. Anyway,
amazing. It's dope, man. It's good to hear
you
it.
were saying good.
Oh, I was just saying that we had good momentum from Friday. Advocates asking questions about the clan design, things that are on their mind, or points of clarity. Um, and there was even momentum carried into Sunday. Some of the folks that like watched the recording, that are part of the Longhouse efforts, or folks that were there, and so we even got even more elaboration on the well and Wolf Clan, some of the questions that were asked on Friday, and so we were getting into a little bit of that right as you got in, Haas. And one of the things too that was elaborated on, or it's been said before, but it clicked for me listening to the reconstitution was, um, that always moving thing, that in that trait for, like it's also an awareness thing, right? Like a trait that's real keen for maximizing potential of awareness, in the sense of like a wolf or a dog being on high alert, right? Always moving in that sense, right? That in a way that you can see a dog be almost hyper alert, and so that's a big part to Wolf Clan traits as well, and particularly the representative when it comes to bringing an issue to the floor, or deciding what issues come to the floor, or there being somebody being proactive enough to take a look at like the bigger picture and like present like the bigger picture problems. Like one of the people that I've seen has a good knack for this is Runafar, right? Like every once in a while, whenever you see Runafar pop up in advocates or other places in the ecosystem, like there's this long, well thought out contemplation about some of the meta or broader things going on in blockchain based systems in general, and like, or what, should we address this in this in this way, or could this be a way to address it? And so it's not even just like throwing things out there loosely, even it's a kind of in between. It's like, I've thought about it this way, could this be a thing, right? And but what you've shown, Hero, again, and what yourself and Juliet have done with that conflict resolution presentation, really, right? Like, it's huge. What's good, Fred? What's good, Fred? Um, Good to have you, man. But it's huge because it's precisely what the Longhouse spoke to on either Friday or on Sunday. They conflate now because how similar they were, the sessions, with the focus on the well. But this idea that the Longhouse says, like, while other people in the ecosystem might lodge an issue, it might be a grievance or just an issue, it's on the Wolf Clan rep before it gets put to the public or broadcasted to the public, if it needs to be that, or if it goes through other more private channels if it needs that. The Longhouse mentioned it's on the Wolf reps responsibility to reformulate this in a way that it's not just like an open-ended thing, but more so of a proposal. So that what you and Juliet really did in terms of that code of conduct, conflict resolution, proposal, issue, is really a really good precedent for like how we should be doing the active issues channel, or our well. Is it, whether when it's actually representative, but for the meantime, it's any of us, right? But this is exciting because it's something that I potentially would have missed and left it a little bit too open ended, right? Particularly for because I may have been conflating like some of the open-endedness that's needed for coordination, right? But that's almost a separate thing, or it is a separate thing. Um, uh,
Could
but
you
yeah,
could you re-say, you said wolf, rephrase the issue, or what word did you use? Sorry.
yeah. So like, as the wolf is deciding which issues are worth picking up, or somebody comes to the wolf with an issue to lodge
Yeah.
into the like the more, even if it's that direct, right? Because it could just be the wolf, a wolf clan representative seeing things like percolating up in the ecosystem somewhere, and like gathering minds around something that they see is already started. But there could also be the more direct look. I need this is an important thing, right? But even then, right, it's on the wolf representatives. Responsibility and know how to understand how to relate whether this is really an issue that should be broadcast to the public, or it could be handled uh, inside of the clan that whatever that person belongs to without it being made a public issue. But it's on that wolf clan being able to um, you see if it aligns with core values, see if it aligns, particularly in the indigenous context, with Tua Wampum and Great Law of Peace understandings, right? And but also the circumstances, core values of the given community that we're speaking to, and like juggling all of that in their head, deciding, okay, this is something that needs to be brought to the right, or and then but also phrasing it in a way, in terms of a proposal, of resolving it, not deciding, but rephrasing it in a way to not leaving open ended for the other people to just make something out of nothing with. It's a responsibility of the Wolf Clan rep to seriously think about each issue that does get brought to the public and present it to the public in a proposal like fashion. And so this is uh, uh, precisely what you guys did, right? You're not being matter of fact, like this is what we're going to do, but you're giving people something to sink their teeth into as well, right? So that they don't have to do everything from scratch in that sense, right? And it shows you like as much weight as there already was on in terms of that representative position. There's even more weight when it comes to things like that, right? There's a whole lot of um, uh, you know alignment going on when deciding what issues are going to get lodged publicly, what issues aren't, how they get lodged, also, and the way that the shape that proposal took that you and Juliet put together. It's obvious that that's coming right from, whether you guys realize it or not, to a wampum and the great law of peace, right? Because Turtle Wolf and Bear comes from these things, right? And so you guys use that to guide your proposal. You didn't use opinion, right? And so this is something that we would expect for a a Wolf Clan rep, right? To not, put all types of opinion into their proposal or into their decisions on what gets put into the well for everybody to see, but they're aligning it with these deeper understandings of both the indigenous dialogue and our convictions about open source, privacy, so on and so forth, right? But hopefully that makes sense as to like some of the elaborations that we've got from the longhouse. The one that's really interesting is the context of Runafar, right? Like it's really important for pushing the ecosystem forward when it would otherwise be silent. And there's no catalyst, right? There's nothing, initiating any type of anything for morphology to come about. And particularly things that are important. Like Runafar seems to have a knack for identifying these general trends, right? That should be a point of discussion if we're serious about all of the beautiful possibilities with blockchain technologies in general, right? And so Runafar, I think, is if you look at some of even his most recent um, uh, uh, you know point of conversation that or attempting to start one, we should get back to him about it because I have some thoughts. It just I'm not very quick in responding because it takes me time for me to write things down, get things out, think about it. But it's um it's a beautiful example of another one of those functions of the Wolf Clan of the well, right? To have that alertness that Runafar is showing about certain trends, people feeling a certain way, or certain patterns emerging in the way that conventional structures are using blockchain-based systems, the negative things and patterns that can then engender and create, slippery slopes for the rest of us, right? Like he asked this very important question of like, even if it's misguided, like the average person's understanding of blockchain when it comes to impacting them at their job, whether it's at GameStop or these other places, more retail or service industry based, is like they feel like it may get harder, right, to do returns or to do transactions, right? They could be misguided, not understanding smart contracts, right? It's just the average person, but it shows this concern about the lack of benefits for employees, and when these more conventional companies are taking on blockchain technologies, and how what can we do to expose beneficial use cases of blockchain-based technologies in these type of spaces, and that's like this very general, broad, but important. Should be very easily value aligned point of conversation, right? That I think would make good issue for folks to be for like a Wolf Clan rep that is trying to eyeball whether or not this should be brought to the public and up for discussion to keep and engender people meeting together and coming to positions about things like this, positions that are wrapped in proposals like your conflict resolution stuff with Juliet Hero. That type of stuff is what keeps an ecosystem not just moving forward, but moving forward in a very specific direction of regenerative sustainability, this type of responsiveness, preventative, atmosphere, right? And so that's one another thing that came out of Sunday's session that really stuck with me, and really happy for Friday's session kind of spilling over momentum wise into Sunday and leading to those elaborations, because I think those can be things that um, we take seriously and use to our advantage, right? A deeper understanding of all of these traits, right? But hopefully that makes sense, Hero, Eric, Fred.
Yeah, I think one of the points is from what you're saying, I'm getting is like there's some sort of fine line between like open-endedness and you end up just simply just passing the issue along without thinking about it, without having some sort of thought put into it, um, versus um, not just like like you said, like you've sort of you shaped it a little bit before putting it out, or not putting it out. That bit of um, work at the beginning takes some thought rather than you're just a person passing the buck, so to speak.
Yeah, and you can see how that's important for the general atmosphere of and like the general culture that gets engendered, right? And it's one of the harder things to pinpoint or to be able to make simple or to be able to track, right? When you're just winging this stuff. But because we're able to name and play with such fundamental elements and traits, it makes the categorization less messy, right? When we're dealing with these important nuances of community and organizing together. Um, yeah. Uh, uh, did we ever do? We never did an opening, right, Mary? I can do one briefly. I think uh, it, I don't. We've been here a little while, I guess, 30 minutes. So, um, but I mean, this is essentially our long-winded intros, anyway. Um, but I'll start off. Uh, Harold Youngis, um, young John Gale, uh, Gloria Francis. I found some new grandmothers too recently. Palicita, uh, I think it's uh, Mariquita, Simona, uh, Gonzalez. All these names I've been finding, potentially more. I think I may have gotten all the way back to the 1700s if I'm lucky, if I keep looking. I won't. I don't think I'll be satisfied till I get to the 1500s, though, to like try to identify a nation, figure out where they started at. But uh, from there, we give thanks. Uh, we say Nawagoa Chaguntuze, Nawagoa Nokasota Garakwa, Yom Kinus Tumagoa, Gongwari na Nagrats, Tukundi Nagrat Gawas, Ao Dio to answer the Tukundi Nagrat Gawas. We say Nawagoa, Egini Dao Hare, Nawagoa, Gayana Rasa Vaskana Goa, Anum Yom Te Nietum, Yom Te Hioni, Discadero again. Danum Honeste, Danum Oneganus, Danum Kayandawana. And I also would temporarily introduce myself in the protection of Bear Clan through the Five Nations Longhouse Confederacy. The indigenous words for this are Yonjun, Yonjun, I can't believe I'm blanking on that. Merrick knows it, Yonjunta. I don't know, I'm blanking on that.
Yonjatanuta?
Yeah, Yonjatanuta. Discadero is how you say, I'm under the protection of the Bear Clan, and for us, we add temporarily under protection because we're all learning these protocols. But this opening is important. Some of those indigenous words refer to sequencing, regenerative understanding, design, being important foundation to all of the design around us and any designing that we are doing innovation-wise in a space like this. It's huge for long-term sustainability in the ways that we're thinking about it in terms of governance or bottom-up systems design. It's huge for distributed power. These regenerative understandings. And so to give thanks in this way, in this context, makes sense, right? And it makes sense to also think about the ways that not thinking seriously about regenerative structures embedded into the technologies that we're building on top of whatever social layers or governance structures. If we're not serious about this, we're lending to the destruction of any possibility of sustainability, right? In general, a blocker, right? A hard blocker to not consider that sequencing in this design, right? And so the indigenous language for this is Jugunsuze, referring to even the Great Spiral and the Milky Way and this. And so we give thanks for this design, this matrilineal heritage, that we can think of as regenerative principles. From there, we give thanks to our grandmother Moon, still at that bigger scale, understanding its regenerative role in getting the Earth started turning and pumping the first atmospheric waters into our system of our own regeneration, and continuing to do this every moon cycle. Very precious piece of knowledge that goes unbeknownst to most of us without this indigenous exposure. Stays in the realm of astrophysicists, perhaps, right? And removes our connection, right? Also, one of the things we learn is the moon moves in the design of this double helix throughout its cycle, right? If you took a photograph in the same place over the course of a moon cycle, you would see it not just going around the Earth like this, but going around the Earth in a very particular design, right? In reference to Jugunsu say earlier. but also tying her right to us, right, in our DNA, and the intricate role that she plays here on our Mother Earth in many ways that may go over our heads, right? But from there, we give thanks to our Mother Earth and all of the mothers in all strains of life for giving us our body, right? We give thanks to all the baby girls, all the grandmothers for being our direction, being our purpose. We speak words like Tukundi Nakarat Gawas and Aotio Dansarat Tukundi Nakarat Gawas to emphasize the sequencing and this matrilineal heritage that they are in direct lineage of and our access to this sustainability, right, in this broader sense here on our Mother Earth, right? And from there, we give thanks to all of the medicines and all of the shapes and forms that come in, including Onastay, or the Three Sisters, the commons, all the regenerative aspects that references, innovation that it references, right, for this context that we gather in today here, and of Web3 innovation, of course. And throughout all of these different points that we give thanks, we recognize, the ways in which whenever we are having these discussions in this Web3 space and we aren't having discussions specifically about projects that address some of the sustainability problems with waters, sustainability problems with agriculture or food commons, when we're not directly addressing projects that are thinking seriously about the sustainability of the Earth as a whole, ecosystems, solar systems, space conservation, moon protection, right? These things are not being seriously considered in the projects that we're involved in, right? It's a means of contributing just through negligence, right? Of what could be opportunities in accessibility brought into this space, upskilling brought into this space, impact on the ground in local regional areas, right? Bringing that to this ecosystem, we're doing something else, right? And so we're lending to some of the harm being done just through that. And so we want to recognize this as we continue to give thanks to the things like the Three Sisters, like the waters, and all these medicines and all the shapes and forms that come in. Also give thanks to the clans, right? To the Wolf and Bear, Yonta Niatun, Yonta Hioni, Yonta Skaderwage. Give thanks to the Turo Wampum dialogue that is crucial to our research here, to our own reconstitution of our own nations in many ways. And so, give thanks to the Degini de Ohada in that way, and the great law peace in which that Tura Wampum comes from, the Guyana Rasa Go. And if I missed anything, please put it in its proper place. Yeah, don't. Now we'll go. So hopefully it's a good opening 30 minutes in, 15 minutes in maybe. But yeah, I think we got on a good roll. Some of the things that are lingering in my mind, like I said, are having a good conversation about code of conduct, right? And in addition to some of the issues that I think we should bring back up when sparking this back up. Hopefully today, maybe we can do it together before we leave this session. We work on like getting these posts back up and being able to use the roles this time to ping people. But maybe there can be a couple of things on the issue list, right? The conflict resolution proposal stuff should be reignited, but then also some serious discussion points around a living code of conduct, right? And a nice proposal around this would make sense as well. And so maybe this is something that I formulate a little bit. You guys help me formulate as wolves, whatever wolves are here, Merrick, Fred, and that can go along with the other issue, maybe as a close second in sequencing if we're just testing them separately, or we can roll them out together depending on how you guys feel. But it seems like an opportunity to get some uh, engagement with code of conduct rather than that, you know, terms of service like interaction with it, right? Because if we put it in the context of a pledge that we make that includes the Tua Wampum dialogue right into the pledge, it includes the Gairarasana Skanagor into the pledge, and so it gives us room to learn, right? If we, especially if we build in the oral living the code of conduct, the Constitution being the real thing, and the written thing could only ever be a reminder. If we write that in, right, that might, do some very unique in between legal stuff for us. Do some unique things for us structure wise too. But it could also do something like um, uh, give, like I said, give us that leeway to keep learning the 201 protocols, right? And that's ultimately what representatives have to base code of conduct or constitutional decisions on, not just the Constitution that's specific to the Stacks realm and Web3 realm, but these representatives would also be uh, um, well versed in those deeper understandings of the indigenous modes as well. And so, these are all things that would then come into consideration when considering representatives, right? When selecting representatives, and so on and so forth. So, but it also would hope, be one of the most solid precedents we have for long-term sustainability, right? Having not opinion guiding representatives or opinion of a given time or a given wave of newcomers coming in, right? But something anchored in authentic indigenous dialogue, right? That has a whole lot of correction in store for us, most likely. So that's something I'm interested in throwing around with you guys while we're here, and maybe blends nicely into what we've already touched on. I'm glad some of the getting the clan design sparked back up with the tooling, and I think it can really start bringing folks together, especially if the issues are like this, right? So yeah, I'll shut up and see what you guys want to go from, where you guys want to go from here. Hopefully, I didn't put you guys all to sleep.
See here or there, snoring away. um, yeah, no, I'll go off that. Yeah, that having that moon away from opinions of individuals and going towards positions rooted in law, rooted in constitution, and then the Wolf Clan being able to center or to maybe position an incoming issue so that it can be it's tied in language maybe to the constitution or code of conduct in this case, right? Either tying directly to that language or you know taking an issue and saying why it's relevant, and and that being rooted within law and not within the opinion of the individual Wolf Clan representative. It'd be like something that everyone could agree on, that is the position of the collective rooted in law or in code of conduct. And oh yeah, of course, I say of course for me, I say having that emphasis like within the code of conduct, putting that direct almost like a cornerstone, but like a core piece as being that direct dialogue. That makes a lot of sense. But yeah, that's something I've just been thinking about since these past dialogues. I think both a little bit after the Friday one and a little bit after this past Sunday Reconstitution Zoom. I've been thinking about what is. I think I mentioned it yesterday too, but like, what is the, what is our collective? What is our constitution? What are we doing, as the Stacks Advox? And I guess how is that codified? And then the answer is in the code of conduct. And it's like, is that code of conduct? Are we kind of ready to start? And I guess it's just for myself too, as like a wolf clan, temporarily acting as you know, I guess positioning different issues that come up, and even I think now as I like see things and given telegrams or whatever, or Twitter, or more honestly in my like other like conversations with people, how to, yeah, how to take this issue and make it relevant to the stacked ad box, and what is the Constitution or what is the code of conduct to base off of? Yeah, loosely kind of been around what I've been thinking. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting too, right? Because the way that the protocols work really revolve around that every 5 years law recital thing, right? And the true wampum stuff is included in the code of conduct that we have now, right? But this code of conduct, hasn't had as much engagement as we want, right? That you mentioned, Hero, right? That it has the type of engagement that most code of conducts have, which is not much. And in terms of its formulation, we tried our best to get the folks that are interested to get their voices in there. We even had like folks like Frieger and folks fall in, give some guidance, and Frieger's guidance, which is almost too fitting, because Frieger is one of the first people that got me feeling comfortable to start voicing some of these more radical, approaches, models, right, from indigenous modes, when he asked the foundation to seriously contemplate ecological sustainability. Like, well, I have some thoughts around that, right? And that's one of the first times I bring up the longhouse in the Stacks context, right, directly, after spending some time digesting some of those first learnings from the longhouse, right? But Friedrich also mentioned in the code of conduct that he'd like to see where a lot of these design models are coming from, or have it mentioned the indigenous origins of it, right? Also have like a means of bridging the dialogue with folks that are interested, right? This is all Friedrich's suggestions to our current code of conduct that we have. And so the only thing that we're doing now is, I guess, getting a little bit smarter with it, right? If we're going to include it, why not have it included in a functional way, right? There's a whole lot of legal functionality wrapped up into a wampum jurisprudence, right? That might dovetail with some of the approaches from Primavera and exit to community and exstitutional theory, but also has a precedence already in terms of international jurisprudence and to a wampum peace treaty, right? And so there's that. There's also, like I said, the structural benefits to incorporating every 5 years. There's this great law recital, but there's also there has to be a constitution or a law recital for what the Stacks advocates' specific constitution will be, right? Which will be everything that the oral constitution in those Ginagahaga law recitals are, plus the added core values of this specific space of innovation, right? Trying to build with a regenerative foundation, right? And so having that built into the code of conduct every 5 years, right, or every whatever we need, maybe it makes sense to have it shorter term in these learning stages, right? Every 6 months, every 3 months, right? Where folks have an opportunity to come, listen to the most recent iteration of the code of conduct, and have their own input on it. And it's something that the tooling helps facilitate in these certain moments, in periods of time, windows of time. But that particular function of the law recital is huge, because that's why you can say the oral constitution is the real constitution, not the writtens. Now, anything written or anything, anything non-oral that doesn't include that collective reciprocal makeup. The reason why you can say that, you couldn't say that any other time unless it was built into the protocol that it happens every once in a while. Because otherwise, you're saying, "Oh, we have an oral constitution," but no one has said it in 2,500 years, and you really just don't have any constitution, and you have tyranny of structurelessness, right? And so having that built in somewhere in our code of conduct may also make sense for us to like um, really really have it make sense, because otherwise um, it would just be lip service, right? Oh, our constitution is oral. So, oh, so you mean your constitution doesn't exist, right? We have to prove that that's not the case. And one of the ways that we prove that is, doing due diligence in terms of the Indigenous dialogue law recital, I think, and building that into the code of conduct as like a permanent thing, but also our own constitutional recital being built in. And maybe uh, yeah, maybe we see good results from that in terms of using the tooling to do so as well. I don't know if all that made sense for you guys, but hopefully.
I got so much thoughts. Someone hold me back, please. Merrick, do you have anything? Otherwise, I'm about to go. Like,
Go hero, go! Go hero, go!
okay, so I'll just throw a few things uh, just off what you said. So I think the recital thing is very interesting, and actually, I'm thinking like, could we leverage some of the buddy system where we actually talking to one another? It's not just writing. We are actually maybe the person when they first come, the buddy can recital, maybe converse some of those concepts of code of conduct one on one, or maybe like at some point we can say, instead of one on one, we have a group thing that you should come and we'll do it together. So that oral passing on that constitution is part of the process how you onboard someone. It's just like it's just a sort of just a secret way to do not secret, but like just tagging along that flow that exists already. That's an option. Um, but yeah, like I acknowledge like having it written down and not actually doing it, it's less than actually not having something, but you actually speak and action and do it. That's bigger than, yeah, if it's written down and people don't do it. Um, one, yeah,
Yeah. I was gonna make the point that yeah, for sure we can, like, it's almost to the same point that I made about including to the buddy system mention of turtle, wolf, and bear, because sometimes I can like um, slip in all the other things that you have to mention, like some of the basics of turtle, wolf, and bear traits. Like is a good point of conversation to always remember.
yeah,
But I was also going to make the point that the group way is the way to grow, the way to go for sure when it comes to something like
right,
uh, constitutional recital, or because the recital is really, it may be, you know, um, one person in the indigenous context, right? It may be one speaker that knows it. Like there's the only one person that knows it now is because he comes to Rio. So there's only one person that can stand there flat-footed and go. But it's on the um, it's on the collectives, like the feedback to what's being recited, that then evolves not just everybody's understanding that it's new to, but it even involves the person reciting it understanding of it, and there may be understandings of it that come out specifically for that time and place, right? And so that's how constitutions are always living. And even if you tried to write them down, you could never write them down, right? In the indigenous context of constitutions, because um, people, can then refer back to the last law recital and say, look, remember this evolution of understanding we have? And so this is not my opinion. This is something that we all collectively understood was something directly related in law, right? And it's almost like that particular understanding really emerges from all of that in between, the in between of all of what's happening in that collective. So the group setting is extremely important. And like you're saying, like that lived experience of like actually doing a constitution, right? Because in that sense, um, even if you just spoke or even if you just were there listening, you're a an active author, right, of that living oral constitution, which you can never really achieve in a written code of conduct because, like you said, most people just skip over like terms of service, right? And so I think this can be huge for uh, from on many levels, right? But you can see some of the benefits to um, being able to organize on our own terms and in our own structures because of some of the flexibility of that, right? But yeah, just to mention that as you were going on the
Yeah, cool. Yeah, yeah. That clarifies a lot actually. Um, and I'll just make another point. Your earlier point about living constitution, little bit more written, like documenting it. I think that was one of your earlier points, right? And actually, like the conflict resolution thing is just an example of how we actually have already done it in possibly. And I'm gonna share. I'm gonna show you the stuff and see what you think because um, because as you read a bit of paper that I found on Google and then turned that into the conflict resolution thing. So, oh, can't I can't stream. Why can't I stream? Oh my god. Sorry, my computer is not. Maybe I'll. Can I? Oh. Yeah, sorry. Keep you go. Let me drop the document in the chat, and maybe you guys can share screen, and I'll go through why I'm thinking like that could be already a case where we are documenting the code of conduct, but actually turning that into a real use case. But my computer is not happy. Sorry, you guys go.